one of the things that seemed to characterize all three of the campaigns here is that the magazines were heavily involved in the creativity. That this was not, there was a blend, it seemed, between or among agency functions and the services that the magazines provided. Is that true? I mean, were you all really involved in the creative aspects of this?
Definitely.
So,
I love the listening point. In, you know, we talk about listening to the users, but I think it's also a mix of listening to both customers. It's the user customer and the marketing customer, who, by the way, is doing a lot of listening on their own of the people that we're also trying to connect with. So there's a lot of listening going on in there. And when you get those minds that are listening for how do we really connect with these people, that's where great content ideas come from. And they don't always have to be specifically from your brand, but it's on stuff that you know your audience cares about.
well, let me ask all of you, because it kind of seems to me that there used to be kind of strict delineations in our world, you know, kind of a magazine or a television program was the place the ads ran. The creative agency made the ads. The media agency places the ads. We've seen 3 campaigns where it doesn't look like that adhered at all. It looks like everybody was kind of involved in everything. How do you manage a process where everybody is kind of involved in the strategy and the creativity all at the same time?
It's hard. There's a lot. I mean, I would say the vast majority of what we would deem our most successful programs, which usually the hallmarks are high creativity, customization, a lot of listening to, you know, both sides of the fence. The actual media that you talk about that used to be a straightforward piece of content that you would receive and put in the magazine. The mix is usually 50% of the total media impressions online are something that we've received from a creative agency, and roughly 50% of them are something that we've created in tandem with our clients. And I think to address the latter, the source of that is because when we do that custom creative, it's because the client is looking for a deeper conversation with our audience. And to have that deeper conversation with our audience, however that manifests, they look to us to bring what does your audience want? How do they like to receive content? And that could be as basic as like font, like I said to you, they're accustomed to a certain font, size, style, or artistic direction. And it also can be content up into that too. So I think that,
I think there's sort of, you would ask 2 separate questions there.
Probably ask 10 separate questions.
The first one about how do you manage the process. I think we've benefited because HSBC is very clear on what the brand stands for and what success looks like. So if we can address those 4 criteria I laid out right up front, and everyone from the media agency, the creative teams, our media partners, and internally, we all know those criteria, we're not wavering from it, we know what the strategy is, it all just sort of tends to fall in place when you're that crystal clear about it. And the second, which you had started to just talk about, is as a marketer, we do know a ton about our consumers, our targets, but it tends to be a very narrow sort of focus on what we know. So I know what they do, the 20 minutes a week that they're thinking about banking or standing in a bank branch, but I don't know what they do with the rest of their life, and that's where you get that deep engagement. So we go to Leslie and say, okay, well, you're telling us that these people are on the menu pages, and this is where they're going, and this is the type of content they're craving. Well, great, that's where we'll be. And not only that, we had one of the topics in the park was food that day. So we knew it was really popular in the culture, threw it in there, and it was one of the most popular that people, you know, were gravitated toward. So I'd say it's they help us know our audience as full people and not just that narrow little slice that we know about.
I think it's worth also mentioning that job descriptions in general, if you were in a publishing company and you had the title marketing, that used to mean one thing. that means several things right now, and one of those is project manager, to a degree, well more than it used to mean. And you know, our creative services departments continue to grow. Skill sets now require HTML programming in addition to just superficial design. It often means liaison with the product people of the website. So the type of responsibilities that people used to have internally to process these kind of non-standard buys, it's lengthy, and it does require a lot of rigor to make sure, because you know, once we're done within the publishing company, you have to give it to the agency, and then the agency's got to feel okay about it before they send it to their client, and so you can get into some long approval chains. You're blessed if the client is tight and ready to respond, but you know, how scalable ultimately is it if you're doing maybe 50 of these? It's not, right? Because you can't go through all those approval processes.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you all. This is one of the most exciting collections of case studies I've ever seen. So please join me in thanking Sarah Worley, Christine Cook, Dawn Fichot, Leslie Ferrand, Mike Kisseberth, and especially Nina Link and our friends at the Magazine Publishers of America. It's great. Thank you.